A jet arriving in Colombia. Rich-looking individuals, likely members of the cartel, deplane and drive across the impoverished nation. They bully and push individuals who are only attempting to live their lives, but who are in the path of their caravan. They travel to a luxurious villa where a retinue of servants awaits their arrival. The leader of these individuals swims in his pool and discovers an object on the bottom. Before he can get a better look, he is drawn deeper and trapped in place. Someone has infiltrated the pool and has been waiting for this opportunity to murder the gang leader. After many minutes of battling, this is precisely what transpires. As the actual employees discover the victim's body and attempt to save him, the killer escapes while disguised as personnel. Arthur Bishop, the murderer, returns to his home in Louisiana. He burns various photographs and maps of the victim's residence and surrounding region as a voiceover explains that some of his murders must appear accidental, some must frame someone else, and others must convey a message. Arthur meets his mentor and best buddy, Harry. Arthur inquires about Harry's son Stephen as they discuss what transpired in Colombia. On his way out, Harry compensates Arthur for his assistance in eliminating the cartel boss. Arthur gets contacted by a lady he eventually takes home with him at a nightclub. She speaks to him in a compassionate manner that is uncommon during one-night encounters, suggesting that they have a history together. On his way out, he hands her a stack of $100 and she inquires whether he would ever reveal his identity. Despite the fact that he tells her his name is Arthur, she does not trust him. Bishop discovers upon returning home that his next task is to murder Harry. He believes this must be an error, so he phones his supervisor to confirm the information. Unsatisfied, Arthur seeks a face-to-face meeting to address this task. This is given, and he is informed of a failed operation in South Africa in which all 5 assassins perished. Mr. Dean and Harry were the only persons who knew all of the preparations, thus Harry must have betrayed the group. It is evident from Harry's financial history that this is precisely what transpired. He received $2 million in return for information. Arthur grudgingly accepts the job and plots to murder his pal. He informs Harry that Dean is coming for him tonight and that he must leave the building immediately. He instructs Harry on how to leave the premises without being spotted, and Harry complies. When he goes to his vehicle, he is met in person by Arthur. Harry suddenly learns that when Arthur told him that they were coming, he was referring to himself, and that all of this was a deception to get Harry out of his office without being spotted by his own team. Harry offers Arthur his own revolver to execute the deed, which Arthur uses, and arranges up the scene to appear as though a carjacking occurred. At the funeral for Harry, Arthur encounters Harry's son Steve. On the drive to Harry's residence, the two gentlemen converse about him. Arthur is plainly uncomfortable in the home of his deceased buddy and concerned that Steve may detect the truth. Steve's statement that he intended to use his father's firearms to attempt to murder carjackers calms the speaker's concerns regarding the second point. Steve walks outside despite Arthur's warning that it won't make him feel better, but Arthur prevents him from firing the trigger. Steve requests that Arthur teach him all he knows about murdering and train him to become a hitman in the morning's clarity. Arthur agrees after careful thinking because of his love and respect for Harry. He takes Steve to adopt a Chihuahua and instructs him to bring the dog with him every day to the same coffee shop at the same hour. This establishes a pattern that is not only conducive to the discipline required of a hitman, but also aids in the mourning process. After his peaceful mornings at the coffee shop, Steve goes through murdering training with Arthur. Arthur eventually drags him along to observe a contract killing. Then, Arthur reveals to Steve his first target, a man who frequents the same coffee shop that Steve has been frequenting. The target, Burke, is a contract killer for a rival group who has a soft spot for Chihuahuas and young guys. Eventually, Burke approaches Steve in the coffee shop and extends an invitation for drinks, which Steve accepts. Arthur instructs Steve to give Burke Rohypnol while drinking with him. Steve, however, disregards this and the rest of Arthur's counsel and instead returns home with Burke. While he is preoccupied with disrobing, Steve attempts to strangle Burke with a belt, much as he's seen Arthur do on his ride-along mission. Clearly, he is unable to kill the considerably larger guy with this method, and Burke fights back. Burke is slain after a hard battle, and Steve understands he should have listened to Arthur. As he did after his first job, Arthur goes out drinking and runs into the same woman, while Steve hooks up with another woman as they depart. Arthur gives the lady Steve's Chihuahua after their evening together, because they are through using it. Dean calls Arthur before to obtaining his next contract. He is enraged by the news that Steve is the one who killed Burke, as utilizing an outsider violates their agreement. Arthur states that his agreement was with Harry, who is now deceased. The only agreement he has with Dean is a financial one. Arthur's next job is to eliminate cult leader Andrew Vaughn. He wants to inject the man with a high quantity of adrenaline to imitate a heart attack, which the paramedics will treat with epinephrine. The combination of the two medications would kill the individual. Just as they are about to execute their plan, Vaughn's doctor arrives and administers ketamine intravenously. This would interfere with the effects of the adrenaline, so they opt to asphyxiate him instead. They manage to kill their intended victim, but are detected as they wait to leave their hiding location behind the wall. The two assassins engage in gunfire with Vaughn's guards, but they are able to escape unharmed. Arthur and Steve travel back home separately, just in case. While at the airport, Arthur encounters one of the alleged victims of the botched South Africa operation, the same mission in which Harry was executed for betraying the organization. Arthur pursues him and challenges him. The guy informs him that Dean hired him to kill the 4 other men on the assignment and to fake his own death so that Dean could exploit the mission's failure to conceal his own dirty operations. He also informs Arthur that Dean framed Harry in order to justify Harry's murder. Ex-assassin tries to murder Arthur, but fails and ends up being murdered himself. Arthur is attacked in Louisiana by Dean's troops. After he kills them, he discovers that Dean was the one who dispatched them. He phones Steve in an attempt to warn him, but it is too late. Dean's men have encircled him with their rifles trained on him. Arthur informs him using coded language that there is a pistol in the couch cushion and assists him in escaping the situation. Steve discovers his father's gun while packing to depart, the same rifle that Harry handed to Arthur to kill him. He understands what must have occurred. As they leave town, Steve begins to inquire about the individuals slain by Arthur. He wonders if Arthur has ever killed someone he knew, and if so, if he had to alter his preparations. Although Arthur feels that Steve may know the truth about Harry's death, he answers the inquiries as nonchalantly as possible. 2 guys attack and take hostage the daughter and wife of one of Dean's men. Arthur uses the safety of his daughter as pressure to get him to reveal Dean's location. After learning this knowledge, the 2 assassins convince Dean to leave his office building and assault his security convoy. When Dean is the last survivor, Steve and Arthur shoot fire on him. As they depart the site, Steve inquires about the next step. Arthur tells him that they can begin new lives together if he desires, or separately if he prefers. While fetching them water in the back seat, Steve inadvertently reveals to Arthur that he is carrying his father's firearm. This is sufficient evidence for Arthur to conclude that Steve can no longer be trusted. This assumption is immediately demonstrated to be accurate. When they stop for petrol, Steve pretends to fill the vehicle by pouring gasoline on the ground. From a safe distance, he fires his father's rifle at the gasoline. The truck's explosion appears to kill Arthur. Back at Arthur's residence, Steve does 2 things Arthur warned him never to do: play a record on Arthur's turntable and steal Arthur's 1966 Jaguar E-Type. While driving away, Steve discovers a message that reads, "Steve, if you are reading this, you are dead." Steve can only giggle when he discovers that Arthur has equipped the automobile with a bomb. The automobile explodes as he laughs, and the home is demolished by a bomb that is programmed to detonate when a record stops. A surveillance footage at the gas station reveals that Arthur was not in the vehicle when it exploded, but that he was able to flee at only seconds before the explosion. Then, we see as he enters another vehicle and drives away into the sunset. Thanks so much for watching. Let us know your thoughts on the film in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and also watch some of our other videos. And before you go, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more movie recaps.